Recombinant Viruslike particle influenza A H7N9 vaccine. Definition: infection in humans with a new avian influenza A H7N9 was first reported in China in March 2013. While have been diagnosed some minor illnesses in humans by the H7N9 virus, the majority of patients developed severe respiratory disease, of which almost a third died.
My colleagues and I at the Center for Biosecurity have been closely watching the events of the current outbreak of H7N9 bird flu in China. This outbreak was first recognized less than 2 weeks ago, and as of this morning, there have been 38 confirmed cases and 10 deaths. Most of the people who have been infected have been elderly. Why this is the case, we don't know. We also don't know the true extent of this outbreak. There may be many more people infected with this virus than have been confirmed so far. The key question is whether or not this infection is spreading from person to person. So far, there's been no confirmed human transmission. But if it is transmitting from person to person, then this could well turn into a new pandemic. On the other hand, if it's only being spread from birds to people through contact in the live bird markets, poultry markets in China, then it may well be controllable. One question, however, is whether or not this virus will mutate further, and that is certainly a possibility. And very close observation is going to be needed to determine this. We'll need to do much more testing of individuals who have respiratory illnesses and carefully observe those people who have been in contact with confirmed cases.
Application in medicine. Vaccines are key defense against pandemics, but candidate vaccines featuring H7 hemagglutins and being poorly immunogenic. Medicine created an AANHUI-113H7N9 virus-like particle vaccine produced in insect cells with the use of recombinant baculovirus.
H7N9 influenza strain until June of next year. Before then, it says it will rely on extra precautions to keep the disease from entering Taiwan, including new health check rules for Chinese students.
Taiwan recently received a sample of the H7N9 influenza strain from China. People now want to know when it will be able to mass produce a vaccine.
For the H7N9 vaccine, we'll probably use egg-based and cell-based manufacturing methods. Its immune strength is lower, so we can't guarantee that either of the methods will be successful.
Doubts remain as to whether a vaccine can be fashioned from the virus strain. Vaccine virus strains are derived from virus strains. The Department of Health expects to get a vaccine virus strain from the United States as early as June. After, it must formulate a vaccine, then conduct animal and human testing. It may take a year for mass production to begin. If the outbreak worsens, the Taiwan Centers for Disease Control could cut short the human testing timetable, allowing mass production to begin earlier. H7N9 is gradually spreading around China. Local health authorities are taking extra precautions to try to make sure it doesn't reach Taiwan before a vaccine is available. The Ministry of Education announced Tuesday that Chinese students entering Taiwan this August will need to provide a health certificate. If they're infected with H7N9, they will temporarily be kept from entering. Chinese students who return home over the summer holidays will also need to provide a health certificate before returning.
Pros. There was great improvement in symptomatic patients who Pierre vaccine with the adjuvant. The VLP vaccine with adjuvant was associated with increased local and systemic reaction. Few reactions were severe, and no body temperatures exceed 13.5 degrees.
This virus is very interesting for us because it's causing such different symptoms in birds and humans. Since this is causing no symptoms in the birds, it's flying under the radar screen, so to speak, which means that it might be more widespread than we realize. That's one of the major concerns for the Americas because it's not here. It's not established in our birds. The Chinese released sequences for the first 4 human cases very quickly. There's a lot you can learn just from getting the sequence information that can lead you on to other experiments and possibly field studies to try to confirm the suspicions you develop from the sequences. We know a lot about the virus just from the sequence, but it's also got some changes we don't really understand yet, which tells us that there's still a lot to learn about this virus. So we have to actually work with it in the laboratory to figure these things out. This one is showing a lot more human cases early on, the H7 compared to H5, since everybody is experienced with having to change the vaccine composition for seasonal influenza every year. We know that influenza viruses can change. That's something we have to be aware of. We have to see that we have a vaccine that works against what's in the population at the time. We're doing as much as we can, and our people are working very hard, and they know what they're doing. They're producing results at an amazing speed.
Cons. Virus can recombine and render less effective the vaccine. In addition, the sole serious adverse event in the study was a recurrence of previous illness. Disease. The symptoms are similar to those of other influenzas and might include fever, cold, headache, muscular joint pain, sore throat, fatigue, vomiting, and neurological problems.
Hi, I'm Carol Bartu. Vanderbilt University medical researchers are once again part of the nationwide fight to prevent a possible flu pandemic. There is a new deadly bird flu strain called H7N9 that started in eastern China. Like a 911 Center for Pandemic Concerns, Vanderbilt's Vaccine Treatment and Evaluation Unit was ready for the call that came into Catherine Edwards' office on August 30th.
At the minute that, though, it was clear that we would need to test those vaccines, then the NIH called us, the National Institute of Health called us, and said, we want you to begin to prepare to evaluate these strains.
Along with 7 other national units, they have been activated to prepare to test a vaccine against the H7N9 influenza in 1,000 healthy adults, much like they were called on to do during the H1N1 pandemic of 2009.
To enroll and vaccinate and to draw blood and to look at the safety and to really study these vaccines in a large number of first normal healthy people and then people over 65 in children and so that the whole gamut of people we would be evaluating. We do this in a very serious and a very extensive way.
The difference about H7N9 is a bit of good and bad news. The good news, once poultry markets were closed in the spring, the outbreak quickly subsided, and there has been only one confirmed person-to-person transmission. The bad news is H7N9 does not make birds ill, and so it could spread widely in birds. Even worse, it has a high mortality rate of 30% so far.
If we have a pandemic where 30% of the people die, I mean, that would be horrible. It would make the previous 1918 pandemic look like a Sunday school picnic. I mean, because of the severity of the disease and the mortality. So that's what we're trying to combat. So the stakes are high.
Edwards says she hopes Middle Tennesseans will watch for recruitment to begin and will be willing to roll up their sleeves for the study later on this fall and winter. For Viewcast, I'm Carol Bartu.
Disease. Influenza A virus subtype H5N1 is a subtype of influenza and virus which can cause illness in humans and many other animal species. When the H5N9 strain infects humans, it will replicate in the lower respiratory tract and consequently cause viral pneumonia.